Have you ever looked for some sense of harmony in your life and wondered why things keep going wrong? Or have you ever wondered why life just seems more difficult than maybe it needs to be? Well, it occurred to me the other day as I was looking at this that maybe I've had a perspective that's all wrong. When I'm experiencing something difficult, I've tried to soothe my soul by affirming that the universe is preparing blessings for me. But what if that's backwards? What if the universe isn't preparing the blessings at all, but rather it's preparing me for a few blessings? Well, with this simple shift in perspective, could we signal to the universe that, okay, now I get it. You've been preparing me for the blessings. In today's episode, we'll be talking about our dreaded ego and how the insane thoughts of our negative mind just about drown our spirit, messing up the best laid plans for those blessings to show up. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically, to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here. I'm switching to my laptop, and today we're talking about a little shift in perspective. What if the universe isn't preparing blessings for us, but preparing us for a few blessings? What can we do to pave the way to receive these blessings so that we can have more success in life? Well, if you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. Today's episode is for you if you wonder, what is the number one way that we sabotage ourselves? Why do we need to proactively place our thoughts into a higher frequency? Is there a cosmic reset button? Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck. It's our thoughts and our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of a hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much here are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. So today we're talking about a little shift in perspective, a way of seeing things differently. Maybe we've been in that place of expecting something wonderful, that place of being open to receiving a few blessings. What if the universe isn't preparing blessings for us, but preparing us for the blessings? That's a different perspective, a different way of seeing things, right? So, what can we do to pave the way to receive the good stuff? Because when we're caught up in negative emotions and negative energy, we have blinders on and we're telling the universe that we aren't ready. We aren't ready for an amazing life. We aren't ready for more love and happiness than we've ever known because we're still caught up in the blinders of negative ego thinking. And today we're talking a little bit about our dreaded ego because this is the primary focus of this lifetime, how to overcome or how to take off these blinders and overcome our negative thinking. You know, Earlier this week, I was talking to a client who had a small mishap that turned into a big mountain, at least in his mind. He had run a little $100 test out on Facebook, but somehow was billed $500. But with a little bit of a reframe, he was able to see it differently, to look for the positive. The mishap was an opportunity to repattern his thought patterns and look for how he could use what he had learned to his benefit. He was able to just see that for a moment he was playing out old fear based ego thinking patterns by looking at what was wrong and falling into a panic. The opportunity was to repattern those thoughts that were taking him down a rabbit hole. All right, so you hear me say so often that it isn't the situation, it's our thoughts about it that get messed up and it changes our energy. Specifically, the energy can get stuck in ego's negative thinking and looking at what's wrong. And this distracts us from our objective, right? So, our ego is our self sabotage, it's resistance, even though ego poses as our best friend. We tend to filter our experiences through our ego thinking, and our ego mind decides whether something is for our benefit or not for our benefit. That's what we tend to do. But this is actually good, healthy discernment if we know how to use it. When this filter of ego looks at our life experiences and decides if things are for our benefit or not, it's actually showing us the difference between what we want and what we don't. And this is really a beautiful way for us to use our ego thinking because in seeing these differences, we can better identify what we want and which direction we'd like to go. Oh, but sometimes we get stuck in that ego thinking, don't we? And if we don't figure out how to stop the insane thoughts, oh, it can drown our spirit. And I'm sure you've been there before, going right down that rabbit hole and facing anxiety or maybe depression, or at the very least, just feeling stuck and unable to break free from the hole or unable to crawl out of our rabbit hole. Okay. So we want to change our viewpoint. It seems like ego will try and pit things against us. But if we see these life experiences are actually showing us the difference between what we want and what we don't want, well, this is really how we can use ego. So, in this process of sorting out what we want, what we don't want, we're being encouraged to become a creator. Our ego is trying to get us to use positive energies to effect transformation because inside this transformation, well, this is where we find the magic of alchemy. Because not only are we using alchemy to create a transformation, well, at the same time, we're also telling the universe that we're no longer devoted to ego's chaos, but would much rather stand in the light, stand in the positive, stand in the possibilities of a better than expected outcome. So we're telling the universe we are ready. And in doing all of this, it becomes so much easier to repattern our thoughts as a whole and maintain a higher frequency of thoughts because we're looking at what we want to create instead of just drowning in negative energies. We want to proactively place our thoughts with these higher universal energies because if we find that we're drowning in confusion or doubts or even anger, it's because we're listening to ego's negative thinking. So, one way to repattern our thoughts is to look for opposites. I don't like this at all, and what I'd rather experience is that. Or what I just love to ask is, where do I belong in all this? Asking, where do I belong in all this is exercising a bit of faith. It's saying that we're willing to align with universal energies. It's that we're willing to trust the process, even if the process looks a little bit wonky right now. In surrendering to the process, we're surrendering to a higher universal intelligence. If we don't proactively place our thoughts with these higher universal energies, well, it leaves the ego to take it from there and make the whole thing much more difficult than it needs to be. And as it tries to get us to look at these differences between what we want and what we don't want, well, this is where I hear so many people saying, God, the universe must hate me. No, it's that all these forces are coming together, asking us to adjust our footsteps for a better, higher path. Okay. Somebody on one of my webinars told me something that I've just never forgotten. She said, ego. Yep, ego is suspicious at best and vicious at worst. And we all love that so much. But really, And I want to emphasize this: these relentlessly insane thoughts that ego puts into our heads force us to think about our best and our highest journey. Every choice that we make becomes, am I going to slow my progress, or am I going to advance my progress through life's journey? Because if we don't stop the insane thoughts and behaviors of ego, boy, it just really drowns our spirit. Remember, we're shifting our perspective to a higher frequency and we're saying, within this pain, I'm seeing contrast. So let me align with higher consciousness so that I can effect transformation and find this magic within alchemy. All right. So the universe is self correcting and it will work things out for us if we'll let it. But the universe will bow to our free will. If our free will allows us to swim in confusion and indecision and frustration, then the universe will bow to that energy. It will yield to our free will. It won't interrupt us if that's where we want to be. But if we're willing to have the situation change, if we ask that it change, this authorizes a cosmic reset button. All we have to do is recognize our negative thoughts. And when our discomfort becomes aroused by these negative thoughts and we get more and more discomfort, that's actually our spiritual self seeking balance. It's our spiritual self looking for alignment with higher thoughts. But if we stay stuck and don't allow our perspective to shift into these higher, more positive thoughts, well, we can become stuck in the chaos of ego thinking. So, in these moments where we feel that our progress is lagging, that's our signal. It's a signal that we have undisciplined thinking. We have undisciplined thinking. We are allowing ego to guide us. We are allowing ego to initiate our plans. In other words, our undisciplined thinking has put us deeper into what we don't want. Until we finally choose to align with higher thoughts about what we do want, which is to have a more positive experience and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them, well, we can ask for the higher thoughts for a higher perspective. And this will invite universal energies in. They can enter into this third dimension consciousness with us and hear us when we ask to be lifted into a higher awareness, when we ask to be on a different wavelength than ego. Okay, so when we're in this higher wavelength, we actually don't even need to make decisions. So we can take that pressure off of ourselves because what we're really doing is asking universal energies to guide us, to inspire us, and to strengthen our knowingness so that we just know the right thing to do or the right path to take rather than defaulting and allowing ego to guide us. And when we're tuned into this magic, to our intuition, to our knowingness, now we're able to follow the guidance and not be forced into a place where ego initiates our plans. Okay, so here's a common question I get pretty often, and that is, how do we know it's our intuition? How do we tell the difference between the voice of intuition and the voice of ego? Well, our intuition sounds peaceful, while the voice of ego sounds hysterical and doubtful and loud. Our ego literally screams at us, makes us cry, makes us come unhinged. You see, our intuitive voice would never bring about an emotion that makes us unhinged. That's not our intuition. Ego wants us to make decisions out of frustration and anger. The decisions are loud and pushy. That's how we know it's ego because it's pushing us toward a direction. All right. Just remember that in the presence of light, ego can't survive. So let's stay in the light. Let's stay out of the hysterical and doubtful thoughts. And often we can just simply ask, where do I belong in all this? And we can quickly see that we belong in that easier, more gentle feeling. Then we can listen for that peaceful voice of intuition and not the voice that makes our soul cry, but the voice that makes us feel lighter and brighter and just so much better. Ego will tell us that the way things are, it's not enough. And so we tend to keep feeling that frustration more and more and more. And then ego begins to push us, asking us to fight. But the fight, though, if we're going to have a fight, is to align with a higher frequency. Of course, the first signal, if we feel like we need to fight for something, that's almost always going to be ego. But we can be, how can I say it, encouraged or urged or nudged toward a higher frequency. This is the paradox, is that we can have what we want when we stop fighting it. Yes, I'm telling you to move up into a higher frequency, to stop tuning in to ego and to tune in instead to a higher frequency. The paradox is that the moment that we come out of this negative vibration, we'll stop attracting negative situations. Can I say that again? The moment that we come out of our negative vibration, we'll stop attracting negative situations. When we stop the negative vibration, we're releasing resistance, and then we'll stop repelling the very success that we want. And when we stop dancing with the insanity of ego, when we stop dancing with the chaotic thoughts, we're telling the universe, I'm not dancing that way anymore. And so, therefore, I am now ready. I'm no longer willing to dance in the chaos. I'm now ready. I'm ready for an amazing life. I'm ready for more love and happiness than I've ever known. I'm ready for more successful outcomes. In letting go and surrendering to the grace of our situation and just allowing ourselves to rise to a higher frequency of positive thoughts, this actually becomes the best chance we have of success because now we know we'll be guided by our knowingness. And there's one more certainty at play. When we allow ourselves to rise to a higher frequency of positive thoughts, whatever comes along will be a more positive experience. As we play in this higher frequency, when we're in the higher consciousness, we just know what to do. It isn't a decision or a push coming from ego, it's knowingness. We just know what to do and what direction to take. Everything we do, good or bad, everything we do is infused with the consciousness in which we do it. Mm. Let me say that again. Everything we do is infused with whatever consciousness we're holding. Everything we do is infused with the consciousness in which we do it. It's just beautiful. So when we get off track, because ego can be determined and insistent, just remember our higher intelligence can also be determined and insistent. It is. If we'll listen, it's right there. One leads to success and one leads to more frustration. Which voice will we listen to? Well, we'll know by how we feel. If we feel more intuitive, more calm, more peaceful, are we feeling grounded, more centered, or are we still feeling the chaos of negative energies? So let's put our consciousness into that higher frequency. It's just the very best self care out there. All right, so what can we do when we hear ourselves saying something like, oh, the situation I'm in, I don't like this. I don't like it one bit. What can we do when we feel ourselves making a mountain out of a mishap? When our emotions are quite frankly a little bit out of control, then we know we're being asked to step into a higher frequency. When our emotions are a bit out of control, we're being asked to step up into a higher frequency. So, in those moments where we feel we're about to get into a meltdown, we feel like we're about to bust, here's what we can do: grab a piece of paper and just make a list. Make a list of all the grievances that ego wants to spew out so loudly. It might be the voice of frustration. Maybe we're feeling buried in doubts. Maybe we're on the verge of sheer panic. Just make a list of all the grievances, let it go, let it rip until there's nothing else there. And then go back. And for each statement written down on a different piece of paper, write down the exact reverse, the exact opposite, because this is our opportunity to be just as contrary as ego. So we want to write down the opposites to whatever it is that ego is wanting to complain about. So on one piece of paper, we could make a title for our first list. We could call it Ego's Grievances. And then on the new list, we could call that the positive experiences I'd rather have. Or one that my favorite, as you all know, when my life is ideal, and then fill in the blank. And as we begin to brainstorm on that new list, we'll notice our energy begins to shift. And then when we have a healthy list of positives, we can pick out one statement and create a little mantra. So, this is one of the quickest ways to get unstuck from ego thinking is to just stop swimming in it and go swim in a different pool. And in doing so, a signal will be sent to the universe that we're now swimming in a better pool, a pool of calm waters. We're now prepared to begin a new journey, and now we're prepared and willing and ready to receive a few new blessings. As we empower ourselves this way towards self expression and who we are at our core, without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, well, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, can change the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything that we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? We're talking about a little shift in perspective because maybe the universe isn't preparing blessings for us, but preparing us for a few blessings. So, what can we do to pave the way to receive these blessings so that we can have more success in life? All right. I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can get a free copy of my latest book at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You'll discover the 22 undeniable laws of alchemy and how to take a wrecking ball to doubts, worries, frustration, and indecision so that your challenges can evaporate right before your eyes. You can get your instant download at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.